पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. As we are studying this portion of Sthita Prajna Lakshana, we must realize that the word Prajna here primarily stands for the highest self-knowledge, Atma Anatma Viveka Janita Prajna. However, one must never imagine that this highest wisdom is something different from what is required to live a balanced and intelligent life. The word prajna can stand for intelligence in all contexts, especially in the context where a person finds himself or herself, to do what is most appropriate, to do what is right. In other words, Atmajnana is the greatest support for dharma. To live virtuously, to live rightly, we need the highest wisdom. So, the highest wisdom is not to be misunderstood as unrelated to various responsibilities. While some saints and sages may go for explicit nivritti, withdrawal from affairs of the world. However, that is God's will, that is a special calling that they have, which is fine. However, a whole lot of us could be performing varieties of duties, and the duties no more remain duties when there is the highest awakening, but in the eyes of others, it would look that this person is performing her or his duties. In the eyes of that person, himself or herself, the whole context is so clear, being free from raga dvesha, being free from kama krodha, being free from, above all, this thing called insecurity, fear, and dejection. The person with clear self-knowledge operates in the best possible manner. My idea of making these remarks is this word sthita prajna is to be understood as having the healthiest outlooks in situations of life. It is not to be taken in a narrow sense of enjoying some kind of transcendental happiness. More importantly, it is being so sensitive, alert, awake, and being able to take cognizance of the realities of life. With these few words of clarification, we pick up where we left the last time, and the example of the tortoise was given. Yada samharate chayam कूर्मोऽङ्गानीव सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता. 58 talked about how as there is this awakening, as there is this stable and steady abidance in self-knowledge, one, whoever it is, young or old, man or woman, one is able to withdraw one's senses very easily, not out of fear, unlike the tortoise that withdraws its limbs out of fear. Here, the enlightened man withdraws his senses out of sheer clarity of perception, out of sheer right seeing, samyak darshana. That difference has to be borne in mind. And this example of tortoise and that illustrating the natural state of self-control in a man of realization is indeed very appealing to all the seekers on the path. As we said while introducing these 18 shlokas, drawing from Shankaracharya's commentary, what is so natural for the enlightened person becomes a matter of spiritual practice for those on the path. Kritarthasya siddhasya lakshanani sadhakasya sadhanani. The enlightened person so easily and so naturally keeps away from worldly entanglements. We people who are on the path of sadhana again and again get tempted or get agitated over various matters, but a study of such portions helps us correct ourselves, mid-course correction as they call it. Even as our boat is going a little bit in the wrong direction, as an able captain of the boat or ship, we say, oh, hold on, where am I going? Let me correct my direction. With this, we move on. Adi Shankara makes a very insightful comment. He says, Tatra Vishayan Anaharatah Aturasyapi Indriyani Kurmangani Samhriyante. If it is just a matter of our sense organs not desiring sense objects, what is so special about it? You have a sick person also sometimes not wanting any enjoyment. Nowadays, with COVID-19 rising again in its second wave, with new variants, new strains, and so on around the world, we hear so many cases where a COVID patient has lost his sense of taste or lost his sense of smell. And when there is no sense of smell at all, that person would not be tempted by some food or some other material which is very fragrant, which has a nice perfume. This fellow doesn't sense that at all. And while all others are tempted, this person remains free of temptation as though he is enlightened. In Sanskrit, the word atura means a sick person. Somewhere else, probably in some of the Indian languages, the word atura has a meaning of being very eager, very desirous of finding out something. Please ignore that meaning. It may be one of the meanings in Sanskrit also, I'm not sure. But at a lot of places like here, atura means a sick person. So, Shankara's commentary is aturasya api. A sick person also says to you when you offer delicious food, for example, no, I don't want it. Wow, is that great vairagya? Has the sick person become so detached? Is he so dispassionate? Doesn't seem to be tempted at all Wow, no, he is sick. Aturasyapi kurmangani iva indriyani samhriyante. But the fact of the matter, as everyone knows, that sick person recovers after a day or two, and then all his desire for delicious food, pleasant music, and other enjoyments of the world, all his desires rise again. Likewise, Shankara adds, Tadvishayaha Ragaha. In the matter of varieties of sense gratifications, our antakarana, our mind, our inner equipment has attachments, has longings, or the popular word is vasanas. Somebody has coffee vasana, somebody has vasana for, let's say, tandoori roti, baingan ka bharta, someone has vasana for traveling, for going to restaurants, eating out, this and that. Varieties of vasanas. Do they go away when somebody falls sick? Temporarily, they stay back, only to come back, as they say, with a revenge. To come back with revenge. So is the case with common people. So, is it possible that, leave aside the example of sick people, when we do sadhana, when we do japa, when we do some kind of meditation, especially some pranayama and so on, the mind becomes very quiet. Is it also a deception? The mind apparently has got out of longings and temptations. Actually, everything is inside. After a little while, the person, the spiritual practitioner, wants every enjoyment like ever before or more passionately than before. That is the question being raised. And Acharya Shankara says, true enough. Hundreds of spiritual practices actually sort of suppress, sort of make our desires take a back seat, not disappear. Raga remains, and Bhagavad Gita, which here once more comes out as a beautiful book of psychology, says Raga remains in our bosom, though outwardly we may not be expressing our desire. In order to remove Raga also, the hidden attachments, the vasanas, the kind of ruchi or taste for things of the world, how would that go away? And Shankara introduces Saha Katham Samhriyate. Saha means Saha Ragaha. That raga, that attachment, hidden vasanas, how would they go? How are they held back? Samhriyate. Therefore, 59 is a shloka of great caution for every one of us. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha रसवर्जं रसोऽप्यस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते. Rasavarjam is the key word here. Varjam means leaving behind. Varjam means excluding. Everything else disappeared, but not the hidden attachment. What we called a while ago raga is termed here rasa. Rasa and raga or vasana all are one in this context. Niraharasya. For a while, when we keep away for some reason from sense objects, for a while our mind and even our senses seem to be not wanting those enjoyments. In South India, as all of you know, there is a famous temple of Lord Ayyappa. And a whole lot of people Now I believe it has spread to the north also a little bit. But in the south, during a certain season, you find a whole lot of people, men typically, wear black dress, and for some 40 days or some other long duration, they keep off from very many things of which they are very fond. There are people who drink alcohol, but those 40 days vrata, because after that they go actually to Shabarimalai to go to the Ayyappa temple, have darshan of Lord Ayyappa, who is the son of Hari and Hara, whose mother is Mahavishnu, whose father is Lord Shiva, Harihara Sutta Ayyappa. So there is Ayyappa Vrata. These men even do not sleep at home, do not stay with their families. They sleep in some temples in the village or in the towns, and they keep away from lot of things. If they were smoking, if they were drinking, and I don't know what other vratas. Basically, they keep away from many pleasures into which otherwise they are heavily, stuck. The verse 59 talks about how hundreds of spiritual practices give to us temporary relief from desire, anger, dejection, and all kinds of anatma tadatmya, identification with this personality which is not our true self. The true self is ever secure, ever free, ever blissful, that is Atma. And the not self, Anatma, is bound to be feeling insecure, wanting something outside to make it feel happy, which will not last anyhow. So, it is in a way alarming that puja, japa, and so many kinds of dhyana, scriptural study, or service to the society, pilgrimages, and so on, none of them can actually give to us lasting freedom. All of them give to us some chitta shuddhi, purification of the mind. They give to us a certain relief, sometimes maybe for even an extended period of time. Maybe for a few years, one may feel, I think I'm so good now, I'm so fine. But at the end of those years, there can be suddenly, like we lost power in between, technical problem. The seeker may find that his peace is gone. Rasavarjam, thus is the key word. Rasam varjayitva, ragam varjayitva, vasanam varjayitva, leaving behind the vasana in us. But where is the solution? All this is good diagnosis, but where is the medicine? Where is the remedy? This very shloka gives to us the remedy. The fourth quarter, Chaturtha Pada, gives to us what we got to do, or when the problem may be removed at its root cause. Param drishtva nivartate. The raga also, the rasa also, the hidden vasanas also get uprooted when there is a glimpse of the supreme truth. The supreme truth, the understanding I am the self without a trace of doubt, can completely transform the seeker to realize that he himself is the sought. Otherwise, niraharasya, a length of time when somebody does not consume, like I gave the example of Ayyappa devotees. when they don't take a cigarette, when they don't drink alcohol or some other kind of enjoyment. Otherwise, they were very used to it. But for a length of time, because of the vratam, they are going to the holy place, and for some number of days, 40 days, I guess, they do not consume or entertain those things. Then their mind becomes quiet. They celebrate, their family members, their friends also say, "Wow, he has changed. Look at him now," and so on. But after the yatra is over, the pilgrimage is over, quite possibly on their way back home, a certain desire arises in them and they say, let me smoke one cigarette. Let me take a little of drink. That is the beginning. Then they get back to the addictions. They get back to various forms of worldly ways like they were before they started this vrata. Nirahara, ahara is taking in, not just through the mouth, food that we eat, but things that we see. Somebody is attached to watching YouTube videos, let us say, of dance, music, and so on. That is also ahara. Through the eyes, through the ears, like we have in Chandogya Upanishad, ahara shuddhau sattva shuddhihi, a statement in the 6th chapter and 6th or 7th. And Shankaracharya says over there that ahara here is not just what we eat, but anything that we receive through the five senses. Therefore, internet, television, radio, and what we read, or even participating in gossip, sitting with a few friends and gossiping about politics, about people, and then in the process, ahara, we consume a whole lot of negativities. Our likes and dislikes, raga and dvesha, get strengthened in the process. And if we don't do that for a length of time, we are nirahara. And it is a good encouragement for anybody to do some vrata and see how the mind becomes quieter. Vrata, vrata paripalanam does help, but not forever. If you want to be freed forever, then param drishtva. Rasaha api asya. Api is even that hidden vasana goes away when there is a glimpse of the highest. As Mundaka Upanishad has the expression, tasmin drishte paravare. भिद्यते हृदय ग्रंथि छिद्यन्ते सर्व संशयाः क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि तस्मिन् दृष्टे परावरे. When that supreme is glimpsed, that supreme is beheld, then all one's karmas are destroyed and so on. So the supreme prajna, that supreme understanding, can destroy even the past karma. In Vidura Niti, the other day some of you attended, it is said that the highest intelligence has the capacity to destroy the results of past karmas. That is said in the Mundaka Upanishad, Kshiyante cha asya karmani tasmin drishte paravare. Let's take a look how Adi Shankara explains this, and it's always such a boost, such a elaboration giving us more clarity. Yadyapi Vishayaha, Vishaya literally means sense objects. What is meant is Vishaya Upalakshitani, Vishaya Shabda Vachyani, Indriyani. The literal meaning of this expression, Vishayaha Vinivartante, is sense objects return. Adi Shankara hastens to clarify, really speaking, when we keep away from sense objects, then our senses also withdraw. It's both ways. We, let us say, do not keep some food or some such enjoyments nearby, we have kept them away. Then to that extent, the indriyas also retreat. So objects go 2 miles away and the senses also withdraw whatever distance. Therefore, Vishaya upalakshitani indriyani. I hope it is clear. Vishaya is sense object, indriya is senses themselves. So the shloka says, Vishayaha vinivartante, sense objects beat a retreat, but the inner meaning is our senses beat a retreat. Therefore, niraharasya, anahriyamana vishayasya. Vishaya ahriyamana means vishayas are being consumed. Anahriyamana vishayasya, keeping away, not eating, not drinking, and not even thinking, not gossiping, not talking about things which could agitate us. And Bhashyakara writes, Kashta tapasi stitasya. There is another version, Kashte tapasi stitasya. Kashta means a piece of wood, kashta. You know, a canopy made of wood is called kashta mantapa. All of you know the capital of Nepal, Kathmandu. Originally, it was a Sanskrit word, kashta mantapa. A beautiful canopy, mantapam, made of wood, maybe sandalwood or some precious wood. And that Kashta Mantapam later became Kathmandu, capital of Nepal, the hill state in the northeastern side or northern side of India. Kashta Tapasi. So, why is tapas called Kashta Tapas? When one withdraws, one as though becomes like wood, a piece of wood. Try to tempt him, he doesn't get tempted. That is the idea, stone like or wood like. That means unmoving, not being pulled by attractions. Kashte tapasi is simpler, engaged in hard austerities. And Adi Shankara adds, Murkasyapi, even someone who is not well read, who has not reflected on scriptures, who is basically very worldly person, having a lot of delusions, who is a murkha, having a lot of false values, whose mouth waters normally at the sight of jalebi, whose mind gets excited at the prospect of going somewhere and having some fun and so on. A murkha is generally in, into worldly imaginations. Wise people also enjoy life, but they are primarily in dharmanishta. They are primarily in performance of duty. They are primarily concerned with various issues. Good leaders, great politicians also are seen to sometimes join a party and enjoy, but quite possibly, even as they have a drink in hand in a party, all the glitter and glamour of that party, their mind is also active about some major issue to be sorted out. Once this party gets over, they don't go home and just sleep. They will again attend to something, make a phone call, ensure that somebody, an assistant, a secretary, or somebody attends to that important piece of work. Therefore, Murkhas get lost in pleasures and enjoyments. Wise people, in whatever field of human life, do get into some enjoyments, but they don't get swept away. They are always aware of what needs to be done and they do it. Therefore, Shakespeare said about kings, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. Some onlooker thinks, wow, this man is the king now, with a crown upon his head, he must be so happy. But Shakespeare made a remark, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. So, able leaders, of course, leaders who are highly evolved, keep in mind their responsibilities, work that needs to be done, but they relatively are at peace even amidst all that work. Uneasy lies the head may not apply to them much, though they are not totally free of worries, but they have a way of handling those worries. But Murkhas, no worries. Give them an ice cream, they forget all worries and eat the ice cream, not out of any wisdom, but out of foolish forgetfulness. Murkhasya api anahriyamana vishayasya विनिवर्तन्ते विषयाः विषयशब्देन अत्र इन्द्रियाणि विनिवर्तन्ते. For some time, the person who is performing some austerities finds that his senses are not demanding gratification. What is rasavarjam? Raso ragaha, says Adi Shankara. Rasa here means raga, attachment. Vishayeshu. Eyes are attached to pleasant and beautiful forms, ears are attached to music or pleasant sounds, nose is attached to perfume, fragrance, and so on. Skin is attached to soft touch or cool temperature, and so on. Likewise, eyes, ears, nose, tongue. Tongue, of course, is attached to delicious food, and so on. So, Vishayeshu Ragaha Tam Varjayitva. Leaving that behind, Shankara now wonders, will everybody accept the meaning that I have given for the word rasa? For rasa, elsewhere is taste. There are shad rasaha, madura, amla, and katu. What is that? Some six, sweet and sour and bitter and hot and pungent and so on. Six tastes. Rasa is you take some food, put it into the mouth, and you say, it's salty. Lavana. Lavana is one more taste. So rasa is the taste. Why call it? Why draw the meaning raga? Shankara justifies the meaning he has given. Rasa shabdaha rage prasiddhaha. Swarasena pravrittaha. Somebody engaging in some activity repeatedly because that person has attachment for that activity. Rasikaha, somebody who may be loving art or music, travel, or some literature, somebody may be attached to anything, then that person is called Rasika. Rasika is not necessarily about the shad rasas of food, salt, sour, sweet, etc. Rasagnaha, someone who has a fine understanding, a connoisseur of some fields, like we have even a profession, tea tasters, where tea is grown, there are a lot of people engaged, employed to taste the tea so that high quality tea is separated, sold at a higher price. Tea tasters. So rasagya, they find out. Rasa could be thus attachment to anything. Some of us have an attachment to language, grammar. You give me a document, I will first see the grammar over there. Singular, plural, spelling, and statement structure, and so on. That is my attachment. That's how I am able to write and speak. We have been polishing our language over several decades. That is a rasa. And nothing is wrong by itself as long as it is moderate, it's kept under control. So Shankara says, Swarasena pravrittaha rasikaha rasajnaha, by giving a few examples of usage, by giving usage as is found elsewhere, he justifies the meaning raga for the word rasa, because shloka uses the word rasa. The shloka by Sri Krishna or Vedavyasa doesn't say ragavarjam, it says rasavarjam. But the word rasa here means raga. Sopi rasaha ranjana rupaha, for it entertains. All of you know the word manoranjana. Manoranjana is entertainment. So, manoranjana or indriya ranjana, this raga gives to us increased pleasure. Somebody attached to television shows, those serials, 9 p.m., there is some serial. Oh, they somehow finish everything or even leave things halfway. And 9 p.m. they sit before the TV to find out what happens next in that serial. So, as Shankara writes here, Ranjana Rupa, because it gives them such pleasure. You know, Ranjana is to delight you. Sukshmaha, many a time you and I are not even aware of what is holding us back, what is tying us down to worldliness. Therefore, it is sukshma, not easy to recognize. How does it go? Param. Param here is Paramartha Tattvam. Brahma. Brahma Drashtva. Upalabhya. And as an Advaita master, Adi Shankara grabs many an opportunity to say, Ahameva Tat iti Vartamanasya. Understanding Brahma and the height of it is to realize I myself am Brahma. I am not this personality. I am not one of the two, that is object and subject, but I am one beneath and behind all plurality. This is a quantum leap of Advaita Vedanta. Ahameva Tat. Certainly, Madhvacharya and others would say, oh, why is Adi Shankara adding this? But Adi Shankara has enough, more than enough justification to give this interpretation. They may not accept it. But Shankara adds here, though the shloka hasn't said, but there are other shlokas, Upanishad mantras, etc., which have established Advaita Vedanta. Therefore, he is justified in giving that interpretation. Brahma Drishtva. The Dvaitins would say, seeing Vishnu, as Dhruva had a vision of Mahavishnu, as various devotees have vision of Shiva or Vishnu, Devi or Krishna, and so on. That is the dualistic interpretation. In the Advaita, having a glimpse of Brahma, and the purest glimpse is when there is an understanding. Brahma alone is the object, the subject, what I see, and I, the seer, are all Brahma. Iti vartamanasya nivartante. Then even the seeds, bija, goes away. Nirbijam vishaya vijnanam sampadyate ityartaha. Vishaya vijnana. The person who is thus freed from vasanas also sees vishayas, but he has no desire for it. Therefore, that vishaya vijnana, perception of something which used to attract him before, is now without even the seed of attraction. No attraction and no causes for attraction. Therefore, we said before, it is a removal of this whole bondage at the level of the root cause. The root cause is bija. Now comes an excellent summary statement. If one were to select statements from Shankara Bhāshya, different portions, quotations, quotable quotes, very, very substantial statements. Here is one. Na asati samyak darshane rasasya uchchedaha. This is double negative. Na asati samyak darshane. Asati means when there is no samyak darshana, and na asati. When there is no samyak darshana, there is no removal of the root causes. Asati samyak, you take na with uchcheda. Asati samyak darshane na uchchedaha. Like a merchant saying, if you do not pay me the amount, I will not give you this material, this item. You pay me the price, then I hand over this. So double negative means you don't pay, I don't give you. You pay, I give you. So you have samyak darshana, your raga goes away. If there is no samyak darshana, asati samyak darshane. Sati means there being. Asati means there being no realization. There is no removal of the root causes. So the positive way of saying this, this is more from grammar point of view. Samyak darshane sati rasasya uchchedaha bhavati. Samyak darshane asati rasasya uchchedaha na bhavati. As simple as that. Therefore, Adi Shankara is a champion of Samyak Darshana. While Gandhi would say Gita teaches Anasakti Yoga, that was Mahatma Gandhi's area of interest. Shankaracharya would say Bhagavad Gita primarily teaches Samyak Darshana. 99 out of 100 may not be ready for it. That's fine, that's a different matter. But even if it is 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, 1 in 1,000,000 who is ready for it, the best that Gita offers is Samyak Darshana. So he further says, Tasmat Samyak Darshanatmikayaha Prajnayaha Stairyam Kartavyam Ityabhiprayaha. Beautiful Prasanna Gambhira Bhāshya. Therefore, the sum and substance of this shloka is stairya, stability, to make something steady. Here and there in a class, in a satsanga, in our personal swadhyaya, we may enjoy, how nice, yeah, to look at ourselves not as this body at all. Look at ourselves as Chaitanya, pure consciousness. How wonderful, so peaceful it is. One may enjoy, but as we know, it slips away. That peace goes away. Stairya is stabilizing. Prajnayaha stairyam kartavyam. The understanding we get here and there has to be made stable by more contemplation, by more self-application, by being very vigilant. And this prajna here, this understanding, is of the nature of samyak darshana. Samyak darshanatmikayaha prajnayaha stairyam kartavyam. Having said this, Sri Krishna will go further and say a few words of how simply bookish learning, being able to lecture or being able to write books, being able to advise others, is not at all adequate. In the next shloka, like warning all scholars of the world, he says, Vipaschitaha api, even somebody very learned, Shastra Jnana is excellent, but if that person hasn't carefully lived her or his life, the senses can simply lift him off the feet and hijack him. That warning is given to mere scholarship. Along with scholarship, one has to have sadhana. Mere sadhana also is of no value, because then one is not well informed at all. One becomes dull. Therefore, there are people who criticize spiritual practices. These practices have made you dull, they say. Actually, there is a place for practice, there is a place for study where our understanding improves. Get the understanding, stabilize yourself there, get more understanding, or remind yourself of the right outlook, then stabilize yourself. Therefore, we say elsewhere, Adhyayana and Dhyana both have to go parallelly. Dhyana without Adhyayana might lead you to a kind of a blank state, because you have forgotten the truths of the scriptures. And adhyayana without dhyana might only make you a talker. Over a cup of tea, you talk Vedanta. When challenges really come face to face, or when challenges stare you in the face, you cannot go by what you talked over tea. This would be the problem. So Swadhyaya and Dhyana, you know, they have to go together. Therefore, lastly, Tapaha and Swadhyaya have been used in this context. The whole Valmiki Ramayana begins with those two words. Tapaswadhyaya niratam tapasvi vagvidamvaram naradam paripapracha Valmikir Munipungavam is the shloka, first shloka of Valmiki Ramayana. Tapaha and Swadhyaya. Tapaha is all the spiritual practices of japa, dhyana, sitting quietly, and so on. Swadhyaya is study. They support each other. Therefore, using both these time tested tools of lifting our consciousness, Samyak darshanatmikayaha prajnayaha stairyam kartavyam, tat stairyam vina, without that stability of understanding, even if we are great scholars and popular in the society, we fall for temptations because rasa hasn't left us. That is the whole point. See how practical, how insightful Gita is into our life. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.